don't know.
I swear to God, if mine rings in the middle of this, I will die.
The hot game come out and everyone like thing kick off at Bristol.
Okay. I'll get that in 2 seconds, I apologise.
Who was building the parks, the design, the quality?
What is up, people? Welcome back to The Struggle. Today we are going to try to do something a bit different. So there are many skateboarders out there in the world who know the struggle. And I feel that we should try to get to know these skateboarders a little bit better. Along these lines, I have with me today a very special guest, Sam Patterson from Skateboard Scotland. How are you, Sam?
Oh, very good, Craig. Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much for meeting with me today, agreeing to speak with me.
It's a pleasure.
It is a pleasure to have you here. So, obviously you are part of Skateboard Scotland,
Yep.
but before we get into that too much, I want to get to know the man, the skateboarder behind the man.
Okay.
So, we're just going to get into your background in skateboarding a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been skating for 35 years.
35 years.
So 1987. I'm from Glasgow originally, grew up in Glasgow, so kind of west end of Glasgow crew, skating around about the uni in the first couple of years. And when there was loads of skaters around, that was just after the Back to the Future boom. So
Okay.
street skating was really kicking off, which was just as well because there's no ramps. So first couple of years of west end of Glasgow. At that point, Clan Skates opened just down the road from
And
us.
that was the skate shop you worked for?
The skate shop, yeah, 1988, so they opened, and shortly afterwards, I think when I was 12, my brother and I both got weekend jobs there, and we worked there for about 3 years, I think, weekends, the odd evening after school, and during the summer as well, so that was amazing. I think kind of formative in terms of my skateboarding experience, because Jamie and Davey were two of the best vert skaters in the UK.
Vert skaters?
Vert skaters, yeah. Kind of out of the early 80s when everyone only had Livy to skate, so they owned and ran Clan, so I got to meet all kinds of interesting people. You know, Jamie would get his Schmidt packages in, David would get his foundation packages in, there would be stickers, there would be just stuff.
So these guys were sponsored as well?
Yeah, so they were
amazing.
properly sponsored, so on US teams.
Oh,
so yeah, interesting times, and obviously loads of people came to visit, so hung out at the shop. You know, we had Swank, we had Craig Johnson, Dave Crabb, all kinds of great people. Neil Blender was there, Steve Clark, so they were all there. And at the same time, the church opened in Glasgow, which was a church up in Annie's Land, which was full of ramps, basically.
Full of ramps, a church full of ramps.
And it lasted for, I think, about just under 2 years before street skating killed it off.
Oh man.
Unfortunately, but that was all kind of in the first few years of me starting skating, so certainly left an impression.
And when you say street skating killed it off, is that just because of the impression that skateboarding had at the time on like general public, or?
No, I think because of there wasn't many parks then, and actually boards and technology was progressing a bit. All the US videos were street skating.
Okay.
So street style, which was Tommy G and you know, a bit of Christian Assoy and Nathas and things, and then that started to translate. You know, Rodney's influence of flip tricks and things kicked in, and that kind of came together, and you know, the early H Street videos are, you know, 60-70% street, so because that's what most people had to skate on their doorstep, that's what we skated.
That's crazy.
And a lot of things that hadn't been touched yet, a lot of spots which nobody had ever thought about. You see something being done on a spot in a video and you think, hold on, we've got one of those.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So you go out and you start skating, and then you go out, and further you go, the more you find. So
Do you remember your first skateboard then?
I do. So it was, I think it was the end of school term 1987, and you know, you always get something for the summer to try and keep you entertained, pre-screens and internet and stuff, so we wanted skateboards. My brother had a wee banana board my dad picked up from a charity shop on Leith Walk when he was through here working. It was in a window, it was a 70s banana board, yellow thing with like footprints on it, so he was rolling around Glasgow with that with a friend for a bit before I skated. So we wanted skateboards. My mum went to see Mick in Quarterback on Union Street. So there was QB, there was one in Aberdeen, there was one in Glasgow, one in Edinburgh. And Mick then went on to run NBC in Glasgow and local skateboards. and is now kind of retired but still does local. But Mick, in his wisdom, told my mum, don't waste money on a brand new full price setup. Go to Grieve Sports, get a cheap complete, and if they like it, come back and see me. Best advice ever.
Yeah.
So we got Beach Dudes, which is this horrendous pink thing. The plywood was probably about half an inch thick, no concave, loosely, urethane wheels, but I don't know, really, just awful. But it moved.
It moved.
And that was enough. You could go down a hill on that and you could tic-tac around, so that was enough. Couldn't actually ollie it, was so heavy.
It's kind of like the old school equivalent of a new Christmas complete these days.
Exactly, exactly.
Cool.
So yeah, we had those for a wee while, but then, birthdays and Christmas, you got to put setups together and eventually had a proper board, which I still have, and it actually is still set up.
You've still got it.
Still got it.
That's cool.
It still gets skated once in a while. So.
Oh, it's that ball hanger for sure.
It's knackered. Its tail's about that long. So it's
awesome. So you mentioned your brother quite a few times. So the two used to skate together.
Yeah. So we skated all the time. So we had a strong West End crew, and then as we went into town, got a little bit older, started hanging out in QB. We met skaters from all over Glasgow. So people who've been kind of lifetime friends. Gary Brown was in Edinburgh now, Colin Kennedy now lives in Edinburgh, Panic Blueprint Pro, and a crew of other folk as well. So we started all skating together across town,
cool.
And then skating kind of died early 90s, so you tended to know the core of the skaters in each town. So we was, as people started to get driving licences, we started to get to Dundee, through to Livy, and most importantly through to Edinburgh to Bristol. Where we all just kind of became most weekends and skated. So
that must have made for some good trips though.
Oh yeah, we had amazing road trips back then. Petrol wasn't that expensive. We didn't a few quid in your pocket for food. That's all you needed. So we'd set off, go to the original factory in Dundee, or the second factory, and then stop off in a few places, go to Bristol and then Livy. Long days, great days.
That sounds incredible. So you mentioned you were how many years old when you started skating?
I was 11.
11, and you've just started skating with your brother.
Yeah.
Tell me about this church. I'm interested.
So, much like a lot of churches, people stopped going to churches and there was no use for them anymore. The congregations got smaller. So this particular church in Strathcona Drive, up at a bit of Annie's Land, west of Glasgow, called Temple, and this church was empty. What had just happened is there was a huge competition at the Kelvin Hall, AES Championship. And there were skaters from all over the world came to skate in that, with a street contest and a freestyle and a slalom for good measure, and a vert comp with a big vert ramp. So the vert ramp existed, so the vert ramp was cut down to fit into the church. Not a huge vert ramp in today's scales, huge coping, massive coping, scary coping. And then all round there was kind of mini ramp setups, because mini ramps had only really just started becoming popular about 1988. So there's our amazing wee spine setup. Interesting kind of whiplash wall ride thing. There's a shed out the back and there was an 8 foot in there, and there's a kind of wee room which was just a bit flat with a few obstacles for street in the back as well. Pretty grotty by today's standards, but as a 12, 13 year old, incredible. And actually Sibs from Focus, strangely I didn't really know him that well at the time, but he worked there for a while as well, way back when. He was maybe about 17.
Working in the church skatepark.
So he was sleeping on mattresses and amongst the rat droppings and all the other unpleasantness that was going on, but it was there and it was amazing. So
skaters will put with a lot of grotty stuff sometimes just to get to skate it. So obviously that was maybe like an exception. What were other skate parks like when you were growing up then?
So there weren't any. So you had Livy.
Livy was the only skate park.
Livy was the only outdoor concrete skate park. There was a couple of relics floating around, concrete dishy things, but generally in areas of town there was no Google Maps and there was nothing. There was no online, so if you didn't know about it, you never find it. But yeah, the only skate park was Livy, and the church was the only indoor park. And once the church was gone, the nearest indoor park was Barrow-in-Furness, and that was in a kind of semi-derelict warehouse, which it was a mission to get to. A couple of train journeys down in England. So there wasn't much at all, so you're kind of relying on street skating and car parks for the winter. So yeah, it's not about saying kids are spoilt now, but definitely we didn't know any better. So you tended to take to the streets more, but yeah, in hindsight it wasn't that easy.
No, I bet not. So you mentioned street skating, and you grew up in Glasgow, but obviously you've spent quite a lot of time in Edinburgh as well, so you must have experienced quite a wide range of street spots around Scotland. Yeah. Are there any that stand out in your mind?
Edinburgh's obviously got Bristol Square, so we were spoilt, so we had ledges, gaps, stairs, flat grounds. Generally not much hassle, the odd peak here and there of the police or the security guards getting involved, but generally we had it to ourselves for decades. And that what I think most old skaters from then used to dream of, the days of old Bristol, just going to sit and hang out and skate in sunny days with just, it was just heaven. And actually what was important, because there were no skate parks, there was no mobile phones, actually you could just go to Bristol on a nice day and there'd be guaranteed to be people there. Didn't have to make any plans, whereas before, I can't actually remember how we used to meet for a skate. Way back when you turn up in Quarterback on a midday on a Saturday. In the 80s, late 80s, it was Glasgow skaters would turn up at Central Station at midday, and there used to be a kind of World War One big shell case thing. You took donations for the warbline and stuff, so you meet there and then you go en masse, like huge groups of people street skating around Glasgow, because everything was shut. There was no security guard, there was no CCTV, so you could skate where you wanted. So
Skater's paradise.
But yeah, so Bristol, Dundee Factory was a kind of abandoned warehouse. It's now the DCA.
Okay.
But so that's a kind of semi-street spot, because there was a lot of street stuff in there. It was just kind of borrowed, found things.
Like DIY.
Yeah, absolutely, but really good DIY. Serious quality. Aberdeen had Broad Street, but being from kind of Bristol, it just wasn't quite as good.
No.
I have memories of Glasgow spots which are probably very rose tinted, but there's some spots. I started posting some on Instagram. There's just some. Glasgow had a lot of direct banks, still does, and a lot of flat rails, which Edinburgh doesn't really have any of those.
No.
But there's just tons everywhere. Glasgow's a lot bigger, a lot of post-industrial brownfield mess, and it's not an ancient city like Edinburgh is. So Glasgow, I think, had a lot more scope for street skating, and still does to an extent. Edinburgh's tough with the surfaces and how busy it is and security and everything. So
that paving is the bane of my existence sometimes. I tell you, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of great spots, you just can't skate them. So
red herrings.
Yeah.
You were getting into street skating quite a bit. You had a huge crew of guys. You must have seen like a massive amount of progression go down in terms of skateboarding within Scotland.
Yeah.
Was there sort of any special moments that you can still remember?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as things progressed, you see somebody doing their first handrail. Way back when. You get used to skating with the crew you've got, and then you go somewhere else and you skate with different people, and they've just got different abilities. But I think some of the early days of Bristol, some of the tech, some of which is filmed and was online, kind of 91, is stand up now. The quality is not, but the actual trick is. It's bonkers. Some of the stuff Rennie was doing, Foot, Benji. Partly because they had Bristol on their doorstep, they could skate it all day long. You grew into one type of skating there. So I think there's some of those moments where you see a different crew and you're like, ooh, right.
Gives you a little bit of a different flavour.
Yeah. I think because of Bristol being there, we had a lot of people up to Edinburgh, a lot of famous people. And then later on, I think as Focus was there, the big tours came in. The girl team came, and you just start to see people in Edinburgh skating the spots you skating this triple set dynamic earth with the girl team, Jeremy Rogers, Mark Johnson, and then flat ground skating with Rick Hurd and Mike Carroll and BA, and those guys, just whilst we were waiting for them to do tricks, was just different. So I think there's lots of, I could sit and think all day about all these points, but for me, part of it in Scotland as well is Scotland was well known for mainly its vert skaters because of Livy. There wasn't many skate parks left in the UK, so produced a lot of great vert skaters. But when Colin and John started coming through, John moved down from Aberdeen to Glasgow. It just went wild. The handrail stuff on the Mitchell that was going down.
This is John Ratcher, right?
Yeah. Just some of the street skating that's not documented, just going out skating in the evening.
Yeah.
Just some of the stuff you're like different, like 3 levels above. You're like, all right.
The best skateboarder you'll never see.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of really kicked off, and then later when skating got popular again, Tony Hawk game kicked off at '99. The Livy parties kicked off again. Those Bristol jams were going huge. And you got the likes of Stu, Div, Benson, Ben Layden all coming through, just again that level above, getting international coverage. So actually seeing these guys, getting into magazines and knowing how good they are in the flesh, and probably still never realising their full potential, but that's on their own terms. So those are kind of standout moments for me when you see skaters from Scotland that and have known for years, just suddenly they're in Thrasher or they're in Creature videos, or they're in, that kind of thing.
It feels almost unheard of these days as well for Scottish skateboarders to sort of be at that level. but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
You mentioned a few of your friends were sponsored skateboarders.
Yeah.
Were you yourself ever sponsored?
No, not massively. I got given stuff by various people along the way, but never a proper full-on sponsor. And I'm fine with that because there's pressure to deliver.
Yeah, man. Skateboarding's not easy.
No, and I was always been working full time or studying full time and working full time. You never give as much time as you wanted to it. And I never really had any need. I think people that some people that deserve to be sponsored probably can't afford to skate unless they get given stuff, and that's what it's great for too. It helps progress them, but also helps them out, and hopefully creates footage and amazing skating people can go watch at comp. So yeah, that's what it should be about.
Yeah, it's great when someone who deserves it and you see them get it. That's probably
way back when the sponsorship wasn't. I mean, everyone's sponsored by someone these days. It seems. The Jan Estes, everyone seems to have some kind of sponsorship. But back then it was really small. So if you were sponsored, you had to be really, really good. Consistently.
Everybody's sponsored, I'll take one.
100%. People got grip tape sponsors and stuff. And I was like, what?
Yeah,
okay, fair enough.
You can, you should.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've been in skateboarding a long time, and you've seen the Scottish skateboarding scene change over the years. What would you say is the most standout change that you've witnessed in your time in skateboarding?
I think pre-internet, the impact of the Tony Hawk game coming out and everyone getting a skateboard, all the kids getting skateboards because it's what everyone wanted, and it just exploded. So huge benefits to that. A lot of money in the industry, a lot of great stuff was happening. It was the start of the internet. You could see videos online in some cases. There was loads of magazines out at that point. Skate shops started opening and doing really well. Everything kind of progressed. The technology progressed a bit, and you could go to Bristol and it would be rammed all the time.
Yeah, because it made skateboarding more accessible to the average person.
And actually the amount of good skaters that came out of that, as you'd expect when you get loads of new people skating, but there's some people who are, there'd been huge gaps in the generation of the skaters because it just wasn't popular, so you'd have whole age groups of which there was just there's nobody there. But all of a sudden there was this huge pipeline of brand new amazing skaters, so that was great. And those are good times, the jams were incredible, the vibe was great.
Yeah. Sort of the last one before we move on. Who are some skateboarders that we don't know about that we should? I was actually thinking about this last night after the jam. There's guys you'll see online, but I don't know how everyone else. It's difficult now when, there's no proper videos, there's no magazines, you're not waiting for a video to come in, you're like, who's that guy who's watched 4 minutes of his skating? Yeah.
And you go and buy his board. It's all changed. The sponsorship thing has changed. A lot of pros don't actually have board sponsors or pro boards because it doesn't bring them any money.
Yeah.
So, just judging by yesterday, there's a guy, Brandon from Dundee, posting a bit of his stuff, but he's an absolute monster. He flipped the stairs, the big stairs at loading bay yesterday. And they've only ever been ollied before, and even that was a stretch. Out of nowhere, he just started trying it, and he made it twice because he didn't like the first landing. But he was down in London with Scott from Natchbull for the UK champs, and he frontside flipped over the Meanwhile gap, the Gons gap, but the footage was incredible. So yeah, he's definitely on the radar. I think there's loads of good guys out there you don't get to see. Some of whom don't even have a social media presence.
Yeah.
I'm always excited when you go somewhere and you see someone you actually maybe recognise their Insta name and you've met them ages ago, and all of a sudden they're killing it. But there's just some guys out Perth and Dundee. They're fairly under the radar. Winton from Perth, ridiculous tech. Everything. Josh Brown from Dundee yesterday, again, every time I see him skate, he's got about 50% better. There's lots of young guys. Wee Fraser from kind of Blantyre way, puts out about 40 videos a week, but you see the progression. There's like a new trick every edit.
Crazy.
So yeah, it's hard to pin down exactly who's who, but you've still got some of the older guys like Tom and Andy from Glasgow, that kind of street skate crew. They were kind of, I suppose, Tony Hawk boom-ish, but they're still absolutely killing it. Inverness crew, Frankie and Aaron, those guys again. There's just some.
Jeez, you know everybody, man.
You know
everybody.
So yeah, there's lots of great skaters. Matty from Aberdeen, unbelievable. Probably one of the most stylish, fullest skaters I've seen in Scotland for a long time. So lots going on. Lots of great skaters.
We're going to try something bit different. We're just going to see how this one works.
Okay.
I'm going to come at you with some quick fire questions.
Yeah.
So obviously don't think too much about it, just go for it. Favourite trick?
Ollie Impossible.
Worst trick?
Pressure flip.
Favourite skateboarder?
Rick Howard.
Favourite skateboarding video?
Oh God, that's a question.
Quick fire, man. Quick fire.
Video days.
Video days. Favourite part?
Rick Howard in Questionable.
Dream skateboard trick?
Switch 360 flip, never done one.
Like you came back on that fast. And what trick are you currently working on now?
I'm working on not losing any old tricks, of which I've lost many.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'd love to do a 360 flip again, but I don't know.
Yeah, we'll take 360 flip. Perfect. All right. So we're going to get into Skateboard Scotland a little bit. So for all the people out there who don't know what Skateboard Scotland is, tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so we are the governing body of skateboarding in Scotland. It sounds really grand. It's not. So we don't get any funding as a starting point, so it's all voluntary. And it means we don't never get enough done. We always want to do more, but hopefully what we do is a good starting point. We are the governing body for a couple of reasons. The main one being that way back when the kind of Olympic conversation started, there was various people scrabbling to take control of skateboarding. One of those being the British Roller Skate Federation, which, you know, roller skating has come on leaps and bounds in the last decade, and it's a very different thing than it was then. But back then it was kind of archaic and staid, and there was nobody really roller skating. So
also not skateboarding.
They weren't skaters, and actually run by kind of a lot of older guys. No harm to them, but just didn't understand skateboarding. And they realised that anything with wheels could just fall under their remit. Anything with bearings, really, and that would have included rollerblading as well, which again is completely different. So we looked at how we would become a governing body, and it goes through Sport Scotland. So the UK is incredibly complicated. So you've got UK Sport, which is the overarching body which kind of looks after the Olympics, and then you've got individual home nations which have UK, Wales, Sport England and stuff. So we spoke to Sport Scotland, and we started just working through everything, paperwork, all the stuff we have to have. The website already existed. From when Skateboard Scotland started in the early 2000s, which was before my time, and we eventually got there to become what was only the second governing body in the world after Australia at the time. And what that meant was that people have a reference point. You can look us up online, and if they have any questions about skating, they can come to us. Sports Scotland had somebody to speak to about skateboarding, and that's absolutely crucial because a lot of the park funding back then came through Sport Scotland. So if you're trying to get a local park, you would approach Sport Scotland, do all the paperwork, they would assess it, and they would match what you'd already raised or match half of the fund with a pot of money. So if you had 50k and they liked your project, it'd be another 50k. The problem with that was that there was nobody really checking who was building the parks, design, the quality, the build, and really who's building it. So when the Tony Hawk boom came, the council got on board with it and understood the needs. So essentially, in their eyes, it was like a kids' play park. It serves the community. A skate park can do the same job. A lot of companies who weren't skaters recognised this too, so started making ramps. And we're actually about building in concrete, mainly ramps. So hence, you've got a lot of metal or some kind of material made ramps that are usable but not great on tarmac surfaces. And some of them cost a lot of money. So Bridie House, if you've ever been there, it's wrecked. 230k, absolute disgrace. Could have built an amazing concrete park, but nobody knew. So where we came in was, we can provide a list of actual skate park contractors that only build skate parks, which is what you want, and they've all got history. They've got skaters working for them. Most of those companies, if not all, now do design and build. So they'll work with either as part of the tender, or they'll work with a group to build what they want. So that's vital. But early 2000s, not many great parks came out of it. A few made it through with the right involvement from the right skaters and the right councils and put serious money into it. A lot of designs are not fit for purpose, largely because you ask a group of kids what they want and they see big steps on baking videos and things, or have big set of steps.
We don't really know how to build parks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the classic example is if you ever go to Monifeast up in Dundee, there's great parks all around. There's Carnoustie, there's obviously Dundee, there's Duttope, and there's a few other wee ones as well. but there's money feast, and it's really got two huge kind of Barcelona style, you know, when there was 4 big steps facing each other, no landing. It's unbelievable.
No roll away.
Handrails with no run up and no roll away, that kind of thing. All the boxes ticked. Again, on our Instagram page, I've posted up some terrible parks.
Aye, I've seen them.
There's a few belters, a lot of which are very old. And so, Skateboard Scotland was a big part in hopefully changing that. So a lot of councils started coming to us, and even if they're not getting Sport Scotland funding, we do get a lot of people coming to us to ask for help at whatever stage that is. So, moving on a bit from the basics of getting a park, but the detail on what you do. So how do you know, if you're a 12-year-old kid and you want a skate park, where do you start? Well, it's difficult. It takes a long time. There's a lot of patience. It doesn't happen overnight, especially in Scotland, or somewhere like Edinburgh, where everything's ancient and everything takes years. It just takes a lot of persistence. But helping people by putting them in touch with local councils, local community councils, local press, you know, explaining how they want to approach it. You know, if you go in with a sense of entitlement as we demand a skate park, it doesn't really get you anywhere. Because if you start speaking the right way, you know, you start to open doors and build bridges and all that stuff. So, you know, social media is a great thing. You can start a wee petition, but you start a social media page and people start following it. You can find more people to join and help you, get some parents on board, which is always really crucial. You know, get something in the local school. It goes right up to design, it goes right up to funding ideas, which is always difficult, but there are some ideas on there. So yeah, this kind of thing is always ongoing. There's parks happening all the time, or there's projects happening all the time. I'd say around about 40% of starting projects really end up in a skate park, which is pretty good.
That's not too bad.
A lot of people just get over it. After a year, they're like, I'm done, which is totally understandable. It just takes over your life, but when that park opens, it's all worth it. So
100%.
Yeah.
So what are some recent successes that you guys have had then?
So obviously pandemics put everything on the back foot a bit, but you know, lots of new parks that have opened, we've had a hand in, whether it's, you know, just initially, whether it's supporting with design, whether it's actually speaking to Sport Scotland, because ultimately, if we say to Sport Scotland, actually that is far too expensive for that design, or actually we don't know who this construction company is, we've never heard of them, we can't see anything, they've got no history, we don't know anyone that's working for them, you know, there's a risk involved here. Or in some cases the design is just not fit for purpose. So you know Portobello, which was my own little pet project because I live there.
Portobello Skatepark, yes.
So the idea with Portobello is with a small budget and a weird egg shape, which is not our, you know, of our making, but that's what the council in their wisdom gave us. Knowing that's going to be really busy, knowing we can't build up, knowing too high for planning, knowing we can't go down because there's clay, knowing we can't afford drainage, but also there's clay, so it needs to be run away. You're kind of restricted. You want a mix of transition and street. You also need to make it accessible to learners, to kids, and to scooters, like it or not. You know, a lot of, you know, taxpayers have children who have on a scooter. So, and also the ability to have more than one session. So there's loads of great wee parks out there, but really, if you get someone really good like Burrows in there, pretty intimidating if you're a 10-year-old trying to get a roll in. So trying to create a space where you can have 2, 3, 4 sessions. I think even at Portobello it's possible to have like a mini ramp in the middle, curb session, and maybe a, you know, ledge session.
Breaks the park up, allows everybody to get involved.
And actually it works really well in my opinion. It's something I've had in my head for a long time. So that is the kind of thing we want to try and get across. So one project just now is Isle of Lewis.
Okay.
Not got any facilities made in concrete up there at all. It's a very small space. They're struggling to get a contractor because obviously the cost of goods, the labour, the transport, everything is really difficult. But we're working through a plan on that. We're working with Sport Scotland and helping out. The original design that was done for them was really one-dimensional, just essentially a kind of dish thing.
Okay.
And actually trying to take that away and make it a little bit more accessible, make some street stuff, create some room for progression, for learning, and crucially don't have it dominated by one skater using the space.
Yeah, so you guys work as like a buffer to ensure that the skate parks that actually do come out are of a certain
so they've come to us and they're a great group. You know, it's all fundraising, it's a lot of work from there. Now they're going after the Sport Scotland funding, but the goal is to, you know, build something that will be the first concrete facility in Lewis. Very small, but again, once you sow that seed, once you get the skaters, and then once councils see actually this is a great thing, you know, you build this thing, you sweep it up once in a while, maybe repair it every 5 years, and all of a sudden you've got people there every sunny day.
Community.
It's a real win 5-a-side football pitch costs a fortune to maintain. You get 10 people in there, but not every night.
Yeah.
Or you get Softon where there's hundreds of people
Yeah.
every day. So big cost outlay at the start, next to nothing. The odd repair, which I know they've started by the way, and the lighting and things, but really minimal cost after that. Another one that's just actually being built just now is Craigie Park in Ayr.
Okay.
So this is one we knew about, it all seemed to be rumbling on, and the next thing we knew, a local council had posted the design saying this is going ahead, and there was a lot of uproar because again it was just very transition based, hardly any street stuff. There's a lot of street skaters down there, so we were able to, you know, direct it and say actually can we redesign so it's, you know, a bit more fit for purpose. Ideally that's done in the early stages, you engage all the right people to get the right design, but in this case, you know, it was the same guys that built Portobello actually. So we were able to change that so there's more street stuff going in. Again, a small park, but it's going to have more scope, more variety.
And you're going to make sure the skaters get what they want, essentially.
Yeah. Not everyone will always want, you know, a vert ramp or something, a gigantic hubba, but you just realistically can't fit it in unless you've got lots of money.
Yeah. There's always limitations.
It's about balancing. So yeah, we always wish there was more money for skate parks, but it's a case of you build a small one or you build nothing. But you know, as time goes on, there's more and more parks, so it's working.
It sounds like you do a really important part of the process.
Yeah. Hopefully, people see it that way. So.
Hopefully. Selling yourself short there. So we have an Instagram where people can send in clips from all over Scotland. So it'd be fair to say that you're fairly open to the social media side of skateboarding.
Yeah.
As I know quite traditionally, there's somewhat of an apprehension around social media and Instagram, whereas it seems you guys are very open to the prospect of it.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's an incredible tool. I mean, again, comparing it to my early days of skating, you had magazines, which you read again and again, you'd circle the board you wanted and all this stuff, and you cut things out, stuck them on your wall. Once in a while a new video would come in, you generally would borrow it from the skate shop and have it for a night, or you maybe club together with 5 friends and buy them, because they were 30 quid for like a Bones Brigade video back then, VHS. Or, you know, some people with richer parents would buy them and you'd borrow them off them, but that was your world, that's all you saw. Very occasionally you'd see a demo in the summer, but that was it. Whereas now you've got all this at your fingertips. You know, in terms of tricks, in terms of what's new, in terms of brands, in terms of, you know, what everyone is up to. It's incredible.
Yeah, the progression that you see on there every day.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, we've got Facebook, but Instagram is just so. Instagram's far better for skateboarding, and most skaters we know most skateboarding happens on Instagram. Facebook's fine, but it's actually a pain to update as well. So really, we've always had an Instagram account since the early days of Instagram, but it never really saw its full potential, and I think it was kind of lockdown starting. My brain was full of things Scottish related that I knew existed or had in a magazine in the basement, or you know, people I knew had stuff, and I suddenly thought, you know what, let's just get this moving. So a lot of historical stuff appeared, and a lot of kind of clips of great Scottish skaters or people skating in Scotland, or you know, just interesting historical stuff which people seem to really relate to. And then what happens is you start to see kind of younger skaters using Instagram, you know, filming their first kickflip, which, to be honest, someone's first kickflip is probably the best piece of footage that will ever exist. I mean, imagine having your first kickflip on film. I remember where mine was, but it's not on film.
I don't know if you saw my tray flip. That was the first one.
Was it?
It was not pretty, but it's on film.
It counts. So I think, you know, the opportunity is that we know that skateboarding is amazing. Our job is to take the baton from the previous generation and keep it amazing and try and get more people involved, but for the right reasons. So it's not about getting sponsored, it's not about winning the comps, you know, that's all part of it, that's fine, but it's about getting out and skating and, you know, doing the tricks, the rewarding side of that, you know, seeing an obstacle on the street, be able to do something on it and thinking differently. And the social aspect just changes your life. You know, you meet people you've never met before, you go to places you've never would have been. I know this, and I want other people to see and feel that, and I want parents to realise the benefit of that to their kids, a lot of whom do, which is amazing. So part of that is actually, you know, you don't need to be great, you need to be enjoying yourself, and if you're enjoying yourself, you're the best skater out there. So that's the idea, showing the kind of clips of Thursday Club stuff. It's interspersed with, obviously, you know, technically brilliant skaters like Brandon switch flipping the high school skaters in Dundee. Chuck that in there as well, because it's not about, you know, Brandon's having a great time too. He's stoked on that, I'm stoked on it, but I'm equally as stoked at somebody landing their first ollie. So, and I think it's important that, you know, people get to see skaters from all over, and you get to see, you know, other people are starting out, or actually you don't need to be able to do every foot trick under the sun or don't need to be able to do a flip trick. There's no pressure to go to the park and perform. You know, if you go and roll about and, you know, do a bonus, if you're having as much fun as the guy doing 360 flips, you're all winning. So
100%.
that's the idea.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you've mentioned the Olympics a couple of times as something that Skateboard Scotland are involved in, and obviously you've highlighted that Instagram allows skateboarding to be seen by areas that maybe otherwise wouldn't see it, or
Yeah.
people who otherwise wouldn't be seen.
Yeah.
Obviously with the Olympics now pushing skateboarding
Yeah.
into the wider world, how do you see that benefiting Scotland for its Scottish skateboarders?
Yeah, the Olympics is a really interesting topic, and we've talked about it to death. Whether, you know, are we buying into it or are we not? And the answer is you can, and you can still do core stuff as well. So the benefit of being in the Olympics is the audience. So I want everyone to know how great skateboarding is for all the reasons I mentioned earlier about the kind of social aspect. You know, the achievement. You know, the going home having done a trick, or going home having hung out with your mates, and the mental health aspect. I want everyone to know that, because I don't think that's that common. You know, if you're a footballer, you need to rely on the rest of your team. You need to rely on having a pitch available and a certain time, and that's it. That's you for the week. So you can go out and kick a ball about. It's not quite the same. Whereas skating, you can go wherever you want, whenever you want. There's no rules. So with the Olympics, there was a clearly defined scoring system, which we actually employed at the Open Champs we had earlier in the year. And the idea with that is we end up with a champion, and that champion gets to go to the UK Champs and represent Scotland. So that's the goal, and we did that. Interestingly, in skateboarding, some of the best skaters aren't interested in the Olympics, which is totally understandable. And I'm not sure that's mirrored in other sports. I don't know if there's great cyclists out there that never enter, or amazing 100-metre runners. I'm sure there are. But in skateboarding, it's, you know, there's the clean-cut Olympics, and then there's core skating.
The creative aspect.
So the UK Champs last week, you know, it by no means was representing the best of UK street skating, because there's some guys that just weren't there and probably could have won. But that's fine, because it lets other talent come through, and it lets young skaters see other young skaters really progressing and seeing what's possible.
Obviously, kids out there know the names of the footballers that they sort of support. Do you think one day we will have kids who will know the skateboarders who represent their countries, knowing them as like household names? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, everyone knows Tony Hawk because of the computer game, but also because I think the computer game realises that, you know, he's not just a name in a game. He's actually the best vert skater that's ever existed, and kind of still is, broken leg or not.
That was gnarly.
Yeah, not good. Not good. And I think that the same will be said of other skaters. A lot of this, you know, I think skateboarding will become, and kind of is already, two camps, both of which cross over.
Yeah.
But you've got the Olympic crew, you know, with the energy drink sponsors, and then you've got your core crew of, you know, your Grant Taylors and stuff. But even within that, there's Nike sponsorship, so there's big money coming in that's not skating, for better or for worse, but there's money coming in. And that is a good thing, because it gets, you know, pro skaters skating pro. It gets, you know, events like the event we put on at the weekend. It provides funding to do that kind of thing as well. So, yeah, I think a lot more people will know a lot more names as time goes on. You know, as Nigel gets sponsored for having a car, you know, energy drinks, all that kind of stuff that comes along with it. You'll see a lot more of it, I think.
What don't they have sponsors for these
days?
No. All right, cool. We're getting there. So, what is in the future for Skateboard Scotland then?
We are in the process of becoming a charity. That just changes things up a little bit for us in terms of how things are approached. We're currently unfunded, so basically any money we get, which is largely from begging and borrowing companies to give us money to put an event on, for example. So we spend it all on, it just goes purely to prizes, and the bank account has next to nothing in it, and that's absolutely fine. So we're all kind of older guys with jobs and things, so we, you know, it's a nice distraction for that. We can put our time into it. So the question of funding comes up quite a lot. You know, it's the kind of chicken and egg. You've got a lot of work to do to get funding, and then when you get funding, what does that person do? But that's obviously something that will need to be in the horizon as skating keeps growing. Someone in a paid position to deal with, you know, inquiries, you know, go and do presentations, what that looks like. We'll keep doing the same with skate parks, because that's working really well. We've got a skate park map, which is all down to Rick in Dundee, our webmaster, We get a lot of great comments on that, gets a lot of hits, and we're always adapting that. So if there's any skate parks not on that map, and there's a few we've got to add, but do let us know. Ideally send a photo and a bit of info. Other things from Skateboard Scotland will be more jams. So we've done the Open Champs this year, we've just done more thistles. We tend to kind of step back in the summer because it's the summer. We only really do indoor park jams now because you can always, the amount of organisation involved just to get it rained off is just kind of heartbreaking. So we'll step back, we'll let all the local parks run their jams, Perth, Saughton, Dundee, all put on great jams every year.
Dalmeny last year.
Dalmeny last year, of course, just round the corner. Keep an eye on social media so you don't schedule events at the same weekend is always good. So yeah, we'll keep on doing events, we'll make sure they're big, we'll make sure they're fun. I think everyone enjoyed the weekend, I certainly did. A lot of work went into it, so great to see everyone was super stoked. Yeah, we'll just keep doing more of that.
So how can people show their support? How can local skateboarders get involved in what you guys do?
Yes, good question. A lot of what we do is boring, Zoom conversations, dealing with emails. It's not the most inspiring. What we'd love in the future is we are kind of not getting any younger. Some of us have been doing this for, I've been involved for probably 16 years or something. Ali, our chairman, has been involved for a lot longer, Neil, Rick, since the start. We would love some kind of younger blood in to help run the events, come do the judging. It does take up a lot of your time, so you need to kind of give weekends away, but we would like people to start getting involved. Come up with ideas as well, because we're twice the age of a lot of the skaters now, so we are not necessarily right all the time. We're also not necessarily finger on the pulse of everything that's going on. So if anyone's got great ideas, we are limited by lack of funding, lack of time. But we've got the social media page, we've got a lot of followers, so anything anyone would like to see on the social media is absolutely welcome all the time. New ideas, things we can do, new series, whatever that looks like, I'm all ears for that. So.
Final question, I promise. Yep. So you mentioned you've been skating for 35 years.
Yep.
You don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
46.
46. What would be sort of the one key piece of advice you would give to somebody who's your age, who wanted to start skateboarding tomorrow, but feels like they can't, for whatever reason?
I would have a think about why you think you can't. Is it because of pressure, because you don't want to go to the park, because you're not going to be good enough? Are you worried about hurting yourself? I think going and finding other skaters, getting a wee crew, or just getting people you can speak to, or even just going to the park and speaking to people. The vast majority of people will speak back to you and, and give you a good impression. So skateboarding is about tricks and rolling around, but 50% of it's the kind of social interaction you get by meeting people you would never normally meet. Yes. Meeting all age groups, all genders, everyone from every background. It's a real melting pot. Certainly a lot more than it was before. So my advice is just, you don't need to be good. Don't worry about that, honestly. It doesn't matter. If it comes, it comes. If not, if you're having fun, you're winning.
Yeah, there's a community there and
absolutely,
there's space for everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you in, speaking with me. Hopefully everybody enjoyed sort of what we had to discuss. I hope Skateboard Scotland continues to grow and you sort of get the support that you guys obviously need to help you support in that role. If you guys want to help support Skateboard Scotland, I'm going to leave all of their information in the description below. Obviously, get in touch with them, help those guys out, show them some support, check out their Instagram. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Perfect, mate.
Thanks, Craig.